Okay, welcome back to Brian Knows Movies. See It, a show about movies and stuff. This is episode 16. It's crazy that we've been doing this show for so long now. I think it's going on like 3 months that I've been doing this show and having various guests rotate in and out. It's always great to talk movies with everyone. As you join the live, just know that the comment section is open. So we're going to talk about a lot of things within the news in terms of movies and pop culture and the whole 9 yards. So if you got something to say, definitely your voices be known because we wanted to have this a back and forth. Coming back for her second appearance, this is my first repeat guest booking, is Anita Easterwood, artist, entrepreneur, extraordinaire. What's up, Anita?
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me back. Hello, everyone.
Since the last time she was here, she's been selling stuff gangbusters, right and left. Actually has lost some inventory. So if you want to get something from her, it's in hot demand. Go to AnitaEwood.com.
Wood.com.
Anita Easterwood. Anita Ewood is the Instagram. Anita Easterwood is the Instagram. So check her out. Check her stuff out. She has some new stuff out there too. She is just featured in some major art shows down in Houston. You
Yeah.
is there at the end of the show, she'll be able to give you a shout out and tell you where you can find her over the next couple of weeks to come meet and greet, and more importantly, buy some of the best art that's out there. So again, one of my best friends and my fellow movie buff, we're going to start with the movie of the week. The Little Mermaid came out on Thursday, smashing the box office. Over Memorial Day weekend, it made more than $100 million its first week. Most of that was domestic. About 60% of that box office was coming from domestic. And it seems to have exceeded a lot of expectations. It definitely exceeded mine. We wanted to talk a little bit about this movie because there's just so much buzz, not just about the movie itself, but in terms of the culture surrounding it. There are some people who've been detracting from it on both sides because of casting and different choices within the film. So we just wanted to break down to you what we thought about it and kind of give you some of our opinions in some of these spaces. So let's just start with what you thought about it. You went and saw it with your son, right, Anita?
Yeah, my son, my brother, and his family. And I will start by saying I don't remember much about the original Little Mermaid. I know like the plot and the key points, but other than that, I don't know all the songs. So I went in a lot more open minded than I think majority of the people were. Um, I liked it. It threw me off how was. I wasn't expecting it to be 2 hours long, but I enjoyed it. I thought that Haley was amazing. Like I think for people who didn't know who she was, maybe they were questioning like why did he choose her? I mean, outside of the whole race thing, the racist people being like, why did he choose the black girl? If you didn't know who Haley was, you probably question like why was she casted for Little Mermaid. But since I follow her music and I watched her on Grownish, when I heard that she was casted, for me it made perfect sense because she, I mean, has the light, airy voice, has the demeanor. But I enjoyed it, and my son enjoyed it as well. So I thought it was a win-win situation.
Yeah, I actually am not familiar with Halle. I know Halle's music, but I didn't watch her on Grownish, and that's her only other acting credit besides this film. And to take on a major studio film like this as her first feature film was, and leading that film was no small feat. And I think she did pretty well, more than pretty well. I think she was great in this role. I think she was tailor made for it. I was sold on her when I saw her sing on what was it? Was it The Voice or America's Got Talent? It was something where she sung a part of that world as a lead up to the movie coming out, and
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, this is gonna work. This is gonna work, and it deleted all those. I was nervous after seeing the original trailer. The first trailer came out during the Oscars, and it looked cheesy. It looked really dark, and it seemed like they were trying to hide some special effects because it wasn't completely edited yet, and it was immediately getting beat down on Twitter and Reddit about not only what's going on with this film, But why do we need a remake? Why do we keep remaking these classics into live actions? Why do we continue to do this? And so, and also they kept a lot of the live action movies. I actually do not like the ones that I do like. I like Cinderella. I like The Jungle Book. And I actually didn't see Mulan, but Beauty and the Beast was okay. But and Aladdin was, so I guess I did like most most of them. But the Lion King was just probably the biggest letdown for me, just because of the talent involved with it, and they didn't really do anything new with
See,
it.
I
But
I have a different opinion. I truly don't like majority of the Disney remakes because I think there's just something magical about animation. You make animation to do all the things that you can't do in reality, and so whenever you
mm-hmm.
translate, it's going to lose something special. I'm a huge Beauty and the Beast fan. It's one of my favorite movies. Never watched the remake more than once. The only thing that I really thought was like, oh wow, was Jungle Book. But there's also different renditions of Jungle Book. Is this was not the first time that this has been done with the live action, so maybe that's why it worked so well. I enjoyed Jungle Book and I enjoyed Aladdin. I did not like Cinderella. I was bored to death. Lion King was okay. Uh, but even with how good this movie was, I probably won't watch it again.
We got a couple. We got comments coming in right and left. Miss Cooper from Arizona said, "Greetings from Arizona." Sandra Harris says, "Yes, 100 million." I think she's talking about the box office, and yes, they cleaned up. I mean, there was nothing even close to what the Little Mermaid did, and you could tell when you're in the theaters. I actually saw Little Mermaid. Well, I saw Little Mermaid once, and then I went and saw something else, but it was just full of kids, specifically little girls, but
Yeah.
really kids of all genders. But it was probably about 80% girls in the theaters, and they were just. I'm like, this thing is going to make 100, and I knew that on Sunday it was going to make 100 million.
Right.
So Sandra Harris says Jungle Book and Mulan are the standard for the live action. I need to check out Mulan. I haven't seen Mulan,
Wasn't a
and
big fan, and that's one of my favorite original Disney movies as well. But I don't know, the remake was just okay.
then Skills from New Orleans just says salute, salute to you, sir or ma'am. So let's just get into what we liked about it, though, because I think we both were on the same page it exceeded expectations probably. So
Mhm.
I'll start off with saying that out of all the original 7 or 8 Disney princess movies, I think that Little Mermaid is the weakest. I do not like. I got into a big argument with my wife when we were still dating about these movies, and she loves The Little Mermaid, and I thought it was just trash because I saw it when I was older, so I'll put that out there too. I didn't see it when I was a kid. At least I wasn't like a little kid. I was probably middle school or high school or something like that. And it just even back then it seemed so shallow. Like you got this little 16-year-old girl that thinks she knows it all. She's infatuated with this guy for absolutely no reason other than he's handsome and he's courageous. But there's no real character development with him whatsoever. There's no character development with Ariel other than she wants to rebel against her dad, who is kind of spit facts at her. But Little Mermaid is one of the movies that has the best songs in it. I think that's probably what people gravitate to, Under the Sea and Kiss the Girl and all those things. You hear it over and over and over. So my expectations, even with knowing that the movie was shallow to me, was pretty low. But what they did in this live action, and I don't think they do enough in other live actions, is they added more to the story. And specifically, what makes this movie work so well is the development of Ariel. She's not just infatuated just for infatuation's sake. She wants to make connection outside of the mer people, or however you say it. Almost like an ambassador. She wants to trade cultural thing, those types of things. She has some more complexity to why she does what she does, why she's so rebellious, and why she's so interested and curious about land. And the same thing about Eric. Eric's just not just this dashing, typical carbon cutter prince. He actually is trying to make his kingdom better because he's like, we're gonna be left in the dirt if we don't catch up and go explore and meet other cultures and use some of the best practices and bring it home. We're gonna be in trouble. And there's a superstition around the kingdom that he's trying to break them out of. So everybody has so much more development. Even Ursula and her, even though they don't tell why her and her brother have beef, at least they say that they have beef for some reason. So there's a lot more development. But you said you don't really remember the first one, so I don't know if that was something that stood out to you when you were
Yeah,
watching it.
don't remember. I would say that all the early Disney, especially were shallow. So that theme of shallowness is not unique to Little Mermaid. So of course you didn't like it as a middle schooler, but when we watched those as kids, I think that Little Mermaid is one more so than the other ones that was typically geared towards girls. Like little girls would eat this up. But yeah, none of it had like a thorough storyline. This was before, the Moana and even Frozen, that had more depth to it. And so if they were to keep that same shallowness and re-release that, it would have completely fell flat. Like it would have been like, what's the point of this movie? So I do like that they add a lot more depth to it. I did wish that they went more into Ursula's story and her background. Um, I'm kind of surprised that they didn't, especially with how much people like the villain. When you think about even villains getting their own full movies nowadays, I think, especially, I love Melissa McCarthy. Like, I love her. So I think she really, if they would have gave her more screen time, I don't think she would have wasted that at all.
It's funny you say that because I think that it felt like something was cut when it comes to Ursula's character. Either like there was some sort of flashback between her and Triton, King Triton, or some sort of visit from Triton to Ursula, or vice versa. It seemed like there was something cut in the film. We have a couple more comments. Mikhail Regulars in the live. He says what's up and gives us some hand waves. Sandra Harris, I'm a mother of sons and never saw the original Little Mermaid from beginning to end. Yeah, I just don't think it's that whole. And I'm gonna push back on you in terms of the shallowness of the other movies. I feel like the female led like Disney princess movies where they're putting something females in the front. They're specifically Cinderella, and Beauty and the Beast. Both of those characters were three dimensional. And Cinderella was dealing with a situation that wasn't her fault. She was dealing with some evil bastards of stepfamily, and she was trying to be kind and just looking to overcome it all, and it was trying to show virtue with that. And then of course Belle with Beauty and the Beast, she was smart. She was kidnapped and she found a way to forgive and get over. I mean, there
Fell in love
and Ariel didn't have any of those things. Even Princess Jasmine in Aladdin, she didn't want it to be married off. She's like, why can't I be king? So it was. I just feel like I don't know. You have to watch the first one. Actually, don't watch it because it'll be a waste of time to me. But but I just think it's just such a and don't and Mulan is probably the best example of all of this in terms of
yeah.
the building of those characters. I didn't like Pocahontas too either, but
I
Pocahontas
love
was at least she was developed. I just don't like the whole
the movie.
Pocahontas John Smith thing.
Yeah,
But
that's that's fair.
um, what else did you like about it?
What else did I like about? Okay, so her singing, is it Hallie or Haley? What's the correct
Hallie.
pronunciation? Hallie. I'm probably gonna say it wrong again, but anyway, Hallie's singing was probably my favorite of the whole movie. And it's funny because it's like, dang, everyone else just really could not match. Like even if they had a decent voice, after following up on after her, it was just like, oh, okay, well, there's that. But her voice was just so beautiful. I really enjoyed that. What's something else that I liked? I like the banter between Sebastian and the bird. What's the bird's name?
Scuttle.
Petal. I thought that was fun. I wish they would have given her sisters more of a role. Are we saying any spoilers in this review, or are we gonna leave? Okay.
Yeah, no spoilers, no spoilers.
Oh,
But the sisters don't do anything in the other movies either than what they did in this one. So
I
it's
felt like
it's pretty much it's pretty
they could.
much what you see. What you see is
Okay.
what you get.
Yeah.
Um, 100% about Halle killing it on the song. I mean, she's the best singer. She's trained and been singing her whole life compared to these other people. I don't know what's his name that played Prince Eric, John Howard King. I don't know his background. It seemed like it might be some Broadway. I will say
Yep.
this though about him. His the song that they wrote for him was a new song. It wasn't the original one, and he was really trying his best. I mean, I was like, okay, I see you, little white boy. He was doing runs. He was the only one. He was the only one to me, besides Hallie. Those two were the only ones when they got their big song. They actually, because everything's lip synced, and I'm talking about some of my issues with that later. But it looked like they were actually matching the song in terms of the energy when they recorded it. It was actually matching what you were seeing on screen. Like he was like, I'm like, man, Erica's going through it. They don't hurt this man's feelings, you know, when he's singing his song. And I like that. Aquafina can't sing, but it's what makes it funny when she does the Scuttlebutt song, which is a new song as well. Ursula with Melissa McCarthy. I think she did okay in terms of the singing. Daveed Diggs did a lot of heavy lifting with as Sebastian. I don't think that there was really, even though Hallie was obviously the high point of the singing, I don't think there was any low points for me in terms of the music, the actual music. Let me see if I got anything else. Literal chills from her first song, vocally perfect. Sandra, I agree 100%. And Sandra points, she's come with a fire. I meant to mention this earlier. The other thing about I don't think that Little Mermaid's a good movie. The original is really that great for, especially where we are in 2023 for little girls, because it just makes you so reliant on men. And I'm not trying to be like super like, you know, you don't need a man type of thing, but there's just no type of get up and go about that character other than her trying to fire her father. There's no get up and go. Whereas Sandra pointed out directly that the Little Mermaid, she's afraid, but she's courageous too. She faces her fears when this is not giving anything away because in the old movie too, when the shipwreck happens or Flounder is running from the shark, or there's some other stuff that happens later on. I'm not going into, but she's not out there just like, please save me. She's like, I'm in this too. I'm with the thing, you know, and I appreciate that as well. Let's see what else. So what didn't you like? Because this is not a perfect movie, even though it exceeded expectations. It's not a perfect movie.
Yeah. I really didn't think about this until too much afterwards. I really did not enjoy the darkness of it all. It was darker than I think it should have been. And then there was one point in the movie with the CGI. I'm not going to say which because I don't want to. Well, it doesn't give anything away. She was singing with the jellyfishes, and the jellyfishes just looked terrible. And I was like, "Now what is going on here?" Their movements underwater, like for them to be like majestic and kind of like fluid. I felt like their movements as mer people were not that. I don't know what they were trying to do. I don't know if they were trying to think too logical of how actual humans would move underwater, but it made them look stiffer than I was expecting. The whole look of Sebastian and Flounder, I just could not get with. I
Mm-hmm.
still head around why they made them look the way that they did. It just really, I think, robbed from the richness of the story. The issues that I had with this movie had nothing to do with the people who actually played or the acting or anything like that. And I
Mm-hmm.
think your point earlier, what you were saying about the songs, um, Ariel and Prince Eric were the only ones that didn't include any CGI when they're singing with their faces and everything like that. So that's probably why, you know, Prince Eric's song stood out more than the others because I mean, how much emotion can you show through a crab's mouth?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 100%. I think that a couple of things that ruins this movie, or at least like that spoiled me as a viewer. Number one being Avatar: The Way of Water. I feel
Mm,
like if The Little Mermaid would have came out a year before this, I might have been a little bit more impressed with what they were able to accomplish with the water CGI and effects. But you
yeah,
know the amount of money that they put into Avatar and how perfect that movie looks compared to The Little Mermaid. I mean, it's hard not to make that comparison when Avatar is less than a year removed from where we are now. And
right.
I think I would love to see the making of this film because it seemed like they had some issues trying to problem solve some of the sea things. I think one of the reasons that they made it dark is because they could say realistic the sea is dark. Okay, I get that, but I think it was also trying to hide some stuff too, right? And then also with that, I think that they could have took a lesson from one of our favorite movies, The Lord of the Rings, And what I mean by that is obviously the Lord of the Rings is live action. Um, Smeagol Gollum, whatever you want to call him, he still was a being, or even the orcs. Orcs were practical, but Smeagol was special effects, right? Smeagol looked was able to emote because they gave him an actual face. I understand that you're trying to be
Yeah.
realistic with the
Right.
crab and flounder and all those things, but
Yeah.
make them more animated so that we can actually see something from them. Because it's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, the mouth is this small on this
Yeah.
thing, Sebastian, and he's so emotive, and all you see is his mouth moving like this. I'm like,
Yeah.
it looks so stupid, and
They
it
didn't have
takes you out of the
most.
movie for the first time. You have to just get. It takes a while to get used to. It's a little bit jarring. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know how they could have fixed it. Obviously, I'm not a special effects person. Outside of, I was even thinking about just not making Sebastian a crab at all, but make him another mermaid or something. But then I don't know how he would have helped halfway through the movie. Like there's
They could
parts
have
of the movie
not
where he
been
has to be able to get out of the
so
water. Hmm.
they could have not been so literal. Like, come on now. It's about mermaids and talking crabs and talking fish. There has to be some magic in there and bend our imagination. We're okay with that. We've already accepted it this far. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that they had to make it like I'm watching a documentary. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, give me some sparks, give me some fakeness. That's okay. We would have forgave you. Um, it just weird.
One more quick thing that I think we both experienced. I'm interested to see. Sandra said, "Did Holly have an original song? I want her nominated for an Oscar for her vocal performance, but I'm not sure that it is possible." I think that the song she had when she got on land was "Addition." I can't even remember how it goes though. Um, I don't know if anything is in the sound. I don't know if any of the music is going to qualify for original song because I don't think they're the original songs would be either Jonah, how you say his name, Josh Howard King's song, Prince Eric, and then there was an original song Holly Bailey sang. I can't find the name of it, but it wasn't the obviously part of that world as the other song that she sung, and then that's really it. And then there was a third song that was added, the Scuttlebutt song, Aquafina song. That's new. So
Yeah.
those would be eligible. But shout out to Lin Manuel Miranda. He wrote all the new stuff, and I think that he's great in everything he does. So shout out to him. One thing I will say real quick, because I want to get into some of this cultural stuff about this movie too. Rob Marshall directs this movie. He did one of my favorite movies a couple of years ago, Mary Poppins Returns. He's done Into the Woods, Memoirs of a Geisha. Done a lot of stuff where music is important to those films. And so I was really surprised that the sound mixing in this movie was really off to me because obviously everything was done in green screen. There was voiceovers. There was no live singing on set. It seems like, and the songs just seemed way too full to be coming from the actors on screen. Like it should have been more compressed, if that makes sense, because it's like you see it made the lip syncing that much more jarring because it was so full in the theater. It was obvious that that wasn't coming from them, if that makes sense, and that I really didn't like. I really noticed it the most, um, probably um, that second song, that Hallie song, but it was just really really jarring.
Yeah. Sorry, my son is here. He's the one that left the comment on our text.
I was gonna ask him what he thought about it. He
Jeremiah, you
come
want
back
to
and
share
want to.
Little Mermaid?
Mm, I'd say it could be a little bit better. It was okay.
He liked it. What he told me when we left the theater was that he was looking for some more action, like fighting. What's cool about Jeremiah is that he expects. Well, I think this is a part of because like the newer movies that are coming out, he expects the princesses to be able to go in there kicking butt. So he was
Yeah.
like, Princess Peach, like she's a warrior. She's this like so he was kept comparing her to Princess Peach, and I was like, well, she's not a warrior. Little Mermaid isn't a warrior in that sense. But I thought that that was cool that his
Mm-hmm.
you have a princess is someone that can just kick everybody's butt. So
Yeah, 100%. And I guess Little Mermaid's really even I not even like that type of movie. It's, like, you're right. This it's much more of a romance and an adventure film. I feel like
Yeah,
the original and this one. It's not really a movie full of action like a Latin or Milan or something like
right.
that. Or um, but hey, that's a fair assessment. Real quick, I want to talk about a couple of different people on different sides of the spectrum about this film that have irritated me. I
Hmm.
was already irritated about the "not my Ariel" movement that a lot of conservatives were putting out there because just because Halle Bailey is black and that she was cast in that. But on the other side of the coin, you got Dr. Umar out here talking about how what did he say? I'm not gonna play the clip because I don't want to give him any more views.
So that
But he
was
talked.
that said that. Sorry.
Yeah, he talked about how if he had complaints about this movie and into the spider across the Spider Verse about the black main characters having romantic partners that were white or of a different race. He talked about dipping into the skim milk, and it's like Dr. Umar has become such a he was already problematic, but the more he became more of a personality than an activist and really became more about him than whatever movement he was trying to do. He's trying to do comedy. It seems like in all his posts and his podcast, and he's not funny, and
Hmm.
it's offensive, and it also shows like a lack of ignorance in terms of generational, in terms of generations. The way this like people are like well one of the things, and I haven't talked to you about this. I'm assuming you may line up with me on this, but maybe not. One of the things I kept hearing was like, "You're gonna make Ariel black, but her father's white. Why is her father not black? Why is her? You don't know who her mother is because her mother died. Um,
Was
but
he white?
why is her? Hmm.
Was he white
Yeah.
in the movie remake? He didn't look white. He looked Spanish.
Well, it's yeah. He's Javier Bardem. He's from Spain. Spain is
Okay.
white people. He has an accent, but
Yeah.
he is European. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, one of the best actors of the generation, by the way. I was surprised that he. I wish he had got more lines. To be honest with you, but it was just like what they did with. Now, granted, I think that two things can be true. We
Hmm.
do need original stories for um, black stories, black myths, and those types of things being portrayed on
Yeah.
screen by Disney, DreamWorks, the like.
Right.
But also, I think it's a step in the right direction to cast movies like this because if you understand the purpose of what they're trying to do, they're
Hmm.
not trying to remake the movie with an all black cast or all Latino cast or whatever you want to say. They're doing something called race blind casting, where they eliminate the race and put whoever they think is best in the role for the role to fit the role. They don't do race blind cast. This is something that conservatives and some just white people in general have an issue with. Well, why don't they do race blind casting for a movie like Aladdin? Or why don't they do race blind casting for a movie like Mulan? Because there's a cultural center to those characters that is
Hmm.
built into the ethnic influence of that character. So that character has to be Asian, that character has to be Middle Eastern, Persian,
Right.
whatever you want. Whereas
That's
Ariel
so without.
is a mermaid. And in fact, that was something that black people were arguing with the whole "not my Ariel" thing. So about when people were coming at Halle, like, she's a mermaid. Why are you tripping? But then we find out that King Triton's white, and she has Asian and Hispanic and so forth sisters, and Eric's adopted mother is black. And I'm like,
Right.
this is still a fantasy about mermaids, guys. So if what's
Right.
good for the goose is good for the gander, if we say that to white folks who are mad that Ariel is black, we have to still use that same logic about why King Triton is white and those types of things. Okay, I'm gonna let you get in there.
No, I agree, and I think that again, I haven't seen. I don't remember the original Little Mermaid, so I don't know what race her sisters were. But it seemed like they tried to have races that represented whatever region, from the 70s. So I enjoyed that. I liked how they were more intentional of having like Jamaican people or whoever, black, brown people on the island because it made sense that the crab is Jamaican or whatever, that they had some black people on the island. I don't remember what that was like in the original movie either. And I like that. Was Eric adopted in the original? Goodness, I really
I
need to
don't.
see this movie.
I don't even know they said what Eric was. I think he was just
Okay.
there. He
Well,
was there squashbuckling and being heroic with and not saying anything. That's what he was there doing.
I appreciated the storyline with Eric, with him being adopted, and then them having a black woman who reigned over that area. Like that felt nice. Like that was inclusive for me, and I think that I don't know. It's just so weird. Racism is just so it's so dumb because these little girls that are going to go see it, white kids, they don't care. They want to just go see a mermaid in the water, and then the black girls that see it are just like super excited because the girl looks like them. So the feeling
Hmm.
that the white children have had the privilege of having for years growing up, we can now share in that same sentiment, that same joy. Yeah, they still like the Little Mermaid, but think of how much more the black girls enjoy it because they know that there are mermaids that look like them, you know? We want to be included. We want to have these stories as well. And like you said, two things can be true. Yes, we don't need to make we do need to have our own stories, our own features and everything. But until then, and even when that does happen, we can still reimagine how these stories came about, what they look like in our
Hmm.
age.
I was looking at the slate of movies that came out from Disney, from Pixar, from even DreamWorks, and if they're not like a animated like being like a animal or something, there is
Mm-hmm.
very few white protagonists in the last like 6 or 7 years of animated films, and so you have a whole generation of young people who are growing up with animated films or children's films that is showing not a melting pot, but a mixing pot of people, and it's okay. I tend to. I know we got to move in because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. But I'll say this: I tend to like to go to kids movies to do my reviews early in the day when I know I can witness the reaction of children. One of the things that have been told to me is that maybe I'm not as critical as some people. Like I should be beating up movies a little bit more. But I think the context and the goal of the movie really matters. Yes,
Yeah.
there's technical issues and some other issues that I don't like about Little Mermaid. But when I tell you, I was in a theater that was halfway full with, like I said, 80% girls, but kids in general, and it was white mothers and white grandmothers bringing their white kids. There was a lot of black kids in there. There was some Asian kids in the movie I went to, and when those end credits rolled, after watching that long movie, because it's a long movie for kids like 5 year old, the
Yeah.
way that they were all just gushing and effusing over this movie was insane. Like this is their Little Mermaid, and it was a beautiful thing to watch. We live in a really conservative state. Josh Hawley is one of my senators. This is so, but you hear sometimes this noise that's on the internet about how much people hate this stuff, but yet I see it in one of the most conservative states in the country where you have suburban white moms bringing their white children to watch a black Ariel, and the black and the white children resonating with that. And it lets me believe that a lot of the stuff that is out there is not as intense as we may believe, but there is a group of people who have power centered around them that want to maintain a status quo, that's trying to make issues out of something that's not specifically there, if that makes sense. So a couple more comments. Sandra says, I wonder if they realized the red reference. I do remember Ursula calling her red in the original movie, but calling a black girl has a completely different meaning. I didn't even think about that. That's true. I was considering watching the original Mermaid, but you both have discouraged me. And Sandra says, I live in South Florida. The children in my theater had a similar experience. Very positive. Thank you so much, Sandra, for participating. I love all the comments. Please keep them coming. We currently have a few people in the live. Feel free to jump in as well. We're going to move on. Little Mermaid is definitely go see it for me. I do have a review coming out. I just haven't had a chance to edit it, but it's 4 out of 5 stars. I've pretty much said everything here that I need to say. Now, there's another movie that's got some issues. Fast X did terrible in the box office. This is its second week, and it made $28 million in its second week. The first week, I think it made like $70 million. Now, this is domestic box office, so this isn't international. This movie is blowing up internationally, specifically in China and other places. But here in the States, it seems like people are a little tired of the family. I
I,
don't like. Have you seen it yet?
no, I haven't. I thought I was going to, and then I just didn't go. I'm
Yeah.
not a big fat. I love Fast and Fast Too Furious. I'm a big Paul Walker fan. R.I.P. So I was gutted when he died, and then that I was like, I can't do this.
And Too Fast, Too Furious was like 2005. So that's almost 20 years ago. In the movie that she liked,
Right?
So
Yeah.
I, I, this movie just has such a, this franchise has such a, I don't want to call it arrogance, but it almost seems like there's an obliviousness to this in terms of the people who make these films, specifically Vin Diesel, but also there's so many talented people in these films, and they continue to get more and more talent. It seems like people like hanging out on these sets. It seems like people like to get paid. This last movie, Fast 10, $340 million budget, which means that it has to make somewhere between 550 and $850 million just to break even. And they're talking about making two more movies after this, and it's bombing domestically. Now, if we were to look at box office, we would see that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 made 26 million this weekend, and it's been out for 4 weeks. And the Little Mermaid, and with the Across the Spider Verse and the Boogeyman coming out next week, Fast X is dead. I mean, it's going to be a flop domestically. Now, it's made $500 million internationally, and so what it reminds me a lot of is the Michael Bay Transformers films, where they were so stupid and racist and silly that American audiences actually eventually got turned off from them, but they continued to do really well internationally. So that's how you kept on getting those movies. It seems like that's what's going on here, but this movie's not going to make $1 billion. What is the point? Do you think that they're going to? They have to go through a one more movie, but do you think they're going to give them two after this type of failure?
I don't know, man. I'm surprised that it didn't do well. But when I think about it, my brother, who is a devoted fan, we was leaving Little Mermaid. He was like, I can't wait till that comes out. I pointed to the Fast and Furious, and I was like, Josh, it's been out for like 3 weeks. He's like, what? I don't know how a devoted fan like that missed the opening date, but it's shocking to me because I thought people were going to ride with this franchise until the wheels fell off. It didn't matter how extreme, how dumb, people still flock to go see it. So I am surprised.
Fast 9 didn't do well. It barely broke even. Fast 8,
Mm.
Fast 7 was the last time. Fast 7, then the Hobbs and Shaw spinoff with Jason Statham and The Rock. Those two movies did well, but Fast 9 and Fast, whatever the Fast 8 film was named, they didn't do what they were projected to do. So it's like, Vin Diesel's getting older. He's not staying in shape, and it just looks so goofy. It's just a goofy. And the issue with when you're trying, Guardians of the Galaxy continues to make money. Super Mario Brothers, it's probably not going to be in the top 10 next week, but it's still number 4 in the box office this week. Super Mario Brothers came out in the beginning of April, and it's number 4 in the box office. It crossed $1 billion a long time ago. How has that happened? It's because people are rewatching these films in the theaters. The reason why Titanic and Avatar and all these movies made gobs and gobs a month, every stuff, Arnold Schwarzenegger movie from back in the day, because people wanted to see it again and again and again. And Anita knows I'll go see a Marvel movie if I really like it 4 times in the theaters if I have time.
Yeah.
Because if it's that good, I want to get the theater experience. And there's moviegoers that are like that. People are not going back to see Fast X. That's just what it is, and it is crazy. I don't want to beat the movie up too much. Like, I've talked about it 3 weeks in a row now because it's just this anomaly of a franchise that interests me, that is so mediocre, and they put so much $340 million towards this movie. It lost its director halfway through. How you have a $340 million movie and it wasn't even completely written when they were shooting? They were still writing the movie as they were shooting because Vin Diesel didn't like the script, and they had to do a bunch of rewrites and lost the director. And I mean, this thing, it's like, how? But when you see them on the red carpet talking about, and the opening of this film, they're so positive and so I don't know, they just believe in it so much. I'm like, how do you? It's just weird. It's just weird. Really quick, while I'm looking at the box office breakdown, I went and saw You Hurt My Feelings on Sunday.
Oh, how was
Really,
that?
it's so good. It's so low stakes. It really reminds me, and I hate to bring his name up because he's such a weirdo now, but a Woody Allen film from back in the day where it's really much more about the conflict even in the movie is not even that big a deal, but
Mm-hmm.
it's really much more about it's about the little lies that we tell the people that we love to try to keep them happy, and
Right.
is that a bad thing or not? And they
Right.
just deal with it such a good way. I would recommend it. It's really quick too. It's like 80 minutes or 90 minutes or something like that.
Okay. Well,
Um,
I'm a Seinfeld fan, so
yeah,
yeah.
she's really good. She's a really good actor.
Okay. Well, that's good
Julia
to know.
Louis Dreyfus.
Yeah, I'm glad it's a good film.
Speaking of good films, we have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse coming this weekend. Anita and I are going to the premiere tomorrow, and excited to see this film. And I can hopefully get a review out to you by Thursday or Friday morning. I'm expecting big things. So far this summer, I would probably say Guardians is the best film I've seen so far. Spider-Man, I expect to topple that in terms of the best quality film I've seen. Um, but I'm going to be objective.
Well, let me ask you
Son, real quick
this.
before I go into that, Sandra did say something. Nope, to Fast X. This was my family's movie about 7 years. When they went to space, they jumped the shark. My teenage sons don't want to see it. It's over. The teenagers, I mean, it's
Oh,
like teenage juice. So yeah, it's
yeah.
they're just so aloof in that franchise. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you about Spider-Man. So, when you and I initially first saw like a little teaser for this movie, we were concerned. We thought that they rushed it, that they might just try to do like a money grab with this. Now, seeing the full length trailers, do you feel the same or do you have more confidence?
I feel I feel confident with what I've seen so far. I'm a little bit more nervous because it's not the same creative director behind it, but the people that are behind it have done some pretty amazing things in the past. They did Soul and some other stuff, and it's still
Mm,
black creator. And this is another thing going back to that Dr. Umar thing in terms of making black stories. Miles Morales Spider Man is an original story. It is not a Peter Parker knockoff. The comic is not a knockoff of Peter Parker. This is an individual story about a black Puerto Rican from Brooklyn who is Spider Man. In fact, in the movie, he becomes Spider Man without the other Spider Man even being. I mean, the comic, the other Spider Man is not even there. Peter Parker doesn't exist in that universe. So it's an original story. A reimagining of Spider-Man, if you will, but it is an original story. But your original question, if I'm nervous about it, I'm not. It's really hard for sequels to hold up to the first one. So I don't. It would be if it's better than the first one, that would be doing something pretty spectacular. But I think it's going to be pretty good. I think it's going to be even great. The animation seems to be top notch, and the story makes sense with what they're going to do. I don't think that they've shown us 10% of the craziness we're going to see in this film.
mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I just don't know what to expect. I am nervous because the last time I was on the show, I chose this as one of my top five movies, the original Into the Spider
Mm-hmm.
Verse, because that film was just perfect. I don't have not one critique of that film. So good. I think I liked it more than my son, and we're actually going to watch it before we go to the movies tomorrow. So when the bar is set so high, it kind of feels like Black Panther. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
before Lost Chadwick, like we didn't know what the sequel was going to bring about. The bar
Mm-hmm.
was set so high. It's like, ooh, like I don't want anything to kind of mess with this perfection. However, when you think about Guardians of the Galaxy, they've been able to have three successful, very, very great movies. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's possible. I recently that Issa Rae was in this one, so that I'm excited. Good for her.
Yeah, Issa Rae plays Spider Woman, but I think it's a reimagined Spider Woman because the Spider Woman in the comics doesn't really have anything to do with Spider Man. She has a different set of powers, different origin. It's not really in the Spider Man world, but there's a Spider Woman that has the same name as Jessica Drew.
Hmm.
That has the same name in the comics, but she's pregnant and she's trying to be Spider Woman, which is which is interesting. Spider Gwen, Miguel is Spider Man 2099, which is a futuristic Spider Man from the 90s. I think they have Spider Punk in here. There's a lot of different, just like they had in the last one, there's a lot of different iterations from the comics that may have only had even one appearance in the comics that they're going to showcase here. I hope Spider Man Noir makes another appearance. I don't see him with Nicolas Cage in the credits, though, but I love Spider Man Noir in the first one.
But the janky Spider-Man for the first one, he's gonna be in
Which one's the janky one?
the one that didn't have his life together. I was teaching Miles all the rope. The other Peter Parker.
Oh, Peter B. Parker. Yeah, he's in this one.
Yeah. Okay. I like
Because
their
remember the Peter Parker spoilers, but the Peter Parker from Miles Morales' universe ended up getting killed.
right. Yeah.
But then the other one came in from the other universe, yeah, and he was kind of like a fat, like just out of shape kind of guy because he had, basically ruined his life, type of thing. We kind of already talked about some of the stupid issues from Umar and some other folks, and other people were like agreeing with Umar online and stuff, and I was like, y'all just gotta.
So can you just summarize what
Uh-huh.
his issue is for those of us who have not seen the Umar videos? Can you just summarize again what his issue is?
Umar has issues with us like teaching children that you can have relationships outside of black love, and the main issue is that Miles Morales's uh, relationship with Gwen Stacy, Spider Gwen, is an interracial couple type of thing that they're trying to push on kids. Like they're trying to. It's like it's almost as egregious as some of the arguments of kids being indoctrinated because of drag shows or whatever. It's one of those things. Like black kids are not going to know that black love exists because their heroes are looking at heroes that are in these interrelational relationships, and it's obvious that Umar and something because it's a lot of hoteps really that are coming after this, and it's obvious that you guys didn't see the first movie or know nothing about the character or anything. It's not that the girl is white that connects them; it's that they're spider people that have powers and are heroes, and nobody else can understand them each other except for themselves. They're the only ones living this life. It's just like that's what connects them. It's not, and it's like we can have intentional. Black Panther has that all throughout Black Panther, right? Like there is media that shows black love
Mm-hmm.
in superhero movies and those types of things, and I'm not trying to say I'm against that, but it just seems so negative
Mm-hmm.
for no reason. Like let kids be kids, let
Yeah,
kids
it's
figure it out on
like
their own.
you're discounting everything that the movie stands for. You watch a
Yeah,
little second trailer, and you're not picking up on any of the lessons. You didn't watch you did clearly just didn't watch the movie. You just didn't watch the movie. And you're also ignoring the fact that there are true allies that are outside of the black race. Like true allies. So he's problematic for several reasons, and it's just a shame that he is gaining a status that gives him enough of the time because he's really become the butt of our jokes,
yeah.
and I hope that people aren't placing any legitimacy to the things that he says now.
I'm thinking about trying to get blocked by him. I think every time he tweets now, I'm going to ask him what's going on with his school that he hasn't built. And he stole all this money from black people that he
Yeah.
loves so much. He's been building school longer than I've been alive. This whatever he keeps changing the name to the Benjamin Banneker W. Du Bois School of Independent Thinking. Like it just keeps on getting longer, like a really bad church name or something. But
Yeah.
but yeah, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is going to make a gazillion. I'm interested to see. So I think Spider-Man is going to be number one in the box office this weekend because of what I think the rewatchability is of The Little Mermaid. I'm wondering if we're going to see an influx of children at the theater where the guys are going to go see Spider-Man and the girls are going to go see Little Mermaid, and Little Mermaid still makes. Basically, what I'm trying to say, I think that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is going to make $100 million this weekend with a 2 day weekend instead of a 3 day week, a 3 day weekend instead of a 4 day weekend. But I'm wondering if Little Mermaid can still get to 60. I think it can, and if that happens, with what I think also the Boogeyman's going to do, because that's a completely different type of audience. We could be
Mm-hmm.
looking at a box office weekend that crosses $400 million or $300 million, which hasn't happened in such a long time. The theaters would really be back if that
Mm-hmm.
happened. So I'm really rooting for that to happen.
So you
I
think
got one.
Boogeyman's going to do well?
I think horror movies always do well. They're good late night movies. There's just a fan base that's built in where I know people, that's all they go to movies to see is horror movies.
Yeah.
And the Boogeyman, Stephen King's name is attached to it. The reviews have been
Right.
pretty good for a horror movie so far, because I didn't get a screener for this one, but people have gotten screeners. So there's some stuff that's coming out already. I'm not trying to read too much of it because I'm trying to stay somewhat unbiased when I'm able to get my review. But I think it's going to do well. I mean, Evil Dead Rise is still in the top 10, and Evil Dead Rise came out, what, mid-April,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or the end of April. So, yeah, I think it's going to do well. Now, I didn't tell you we were going to do this, but we are. There
Okay.
is a new trailer for a Jackie Chan movie coming out later this later
Is
this
that
year.
Channing Tatum? Or
John
no?
Cena is John
What?
Cena is teaming up with Jackie Chan. So
Jeremiah,
we're gonna
watch.
watch the trailer. Uh, Anita, just FYI, I didn't get a chance to tell you this because I wanted it to be a surprise. But sometimes it won't do this for our audience, but for you, you might hear like a bunch of hiccups. It might kind of like sound like fluttering. There's nothing wrong with your computer, it's just the way that the app is set up. But let's see. This is called Hidden Strike. A
Okay.
film that was filmed, I think, during the pandemic or right before the pandemic. Is just now coming out with Jackie Chan. Here we go.
Hit it! Put your seatbelt on. Hey, hey! Slow. And put in the hole.
It looks so cheesy in like a 1990s way.
Take us all your high speed.
Max, what's that? Is it?
It's not personal.
These guys are a little bit on edge.
It's got a little bit of a Mad Max feel to it, like a cheaper Mad Max to
Tomb
it.
Raider.
Tomb Raider.
Full disclosure, there's a lot going on here.
I think they're gonna shoot you. Why? Because the first time I see you, I want to shoot you.
Animações ao fire!
See it? I'm just taking back what they owe us.
Looks like we got ourselves an old-fashioned standoff. You go high, I'll go low.
You know Jackie didn't throw that man like that.
I'm okay. You okay?
Get off me.
Okay.
A lot of guns.
Sorry.
Shame you have to do this on your own.
I'm not alone.
Hit it!
It's so stupid.
That's cheesy. Yes. Am I still going to go see it? Yes.
100%. You know, we're going to go see this movie. Now, one thing that kind of makes me a little sad is that, you know, it's been happening for a while now that Jackie Chan is having to start to use some stunt double work for himself. He's not doing all this, but he's like, I think he was probably 66, 67 when he filmed this film. let me throw some, but just for the audience to know, I'm a huge Jackie Chan fan. Anita might be a bigger Jackie Chan fan than I am, so there is a nostalgia, love for this man because going to see everything that he's in. I'm gonna give you guys just a quick timeline of this guy, just to let you know how long he's been doing what he's been doing. Jackie Chan is 69 years old now. He's older than my mom by a couple of
Yeah.
years, which is crazy because his
And you met
first film he
like this?
I didn't I did not know this, but his first film credit 1962. Little Jackie Chan was a child actor. I didn't know that in a movie called Big and Little Wong Tin Bar. It's a pretty terrible title, but that means he's been making movies since he was 61 years old. We know that he was a stunt double and was doing movies with Bruce Lee. His first lead role was Snake in the Eagle's Shadow in 1977. But when he really started to make his fame as an international star was in the 80s. Project A was probably his first big international film, followed by Police Story, Armor of God, and then Police Story 2. The 90s is when he really hit America scene. Operation Condor, which I love. Super Cop, The Legend of Drunken Master. Mr. Nice Guy. Oh, the Drunken Master right there. I have a Mr. Nice Guy poster somewhere too. Rumble in the Bronx is probably, I think Rumble in the Bronx was his first film that was actually played in theaters here, and then they released some of his other early 90s work. Then, of course, Rush Hour comes out in the 90s. And I think the 90s was really the height of his powers when he was the most active, he's the most in shape, he was doing the most crazy stunts. And also, he was probably just as famous as anybody else that was in the 90s. He was just as famous as, because remember, when he was coming up and was getting really popular in America, Stallone and Schwarzenegger were on like the intel of their height, right? So he was as big as Wesley Snipes for us, and um, you name it. He was one of the biggest stars in the world on the planet. He was really recognizable here. The 2000s, he starts to kind of trail off Shanghai News, Shanghai Nights, but he has two Rush Hours. He starts doing the Kung Fu Panda movies. The 2010s, he started doing a bunch of kid movies. Your Ningados, Tuxedo, The Accidental Spy. He was much more family friendly at that point, which is crazy if you look at some of his 80s stuff, because the 80s stuff is a little ratchet. And then in the 2020s, he's still going. He has this movie coming out. He's going to be splintering the new Ninja Turtle movies this summer. And they're still trying to get Rush Hour 4 off the ground. Oh, also, he gave us The Foreigner in 2017, which I think is a top 5 Jackie Chan film. So, huge body of work, ups and downs. He's reinvented himself to be like kind of like the leading hunk man in Asia, to like this comic genius throughout his whole career, obviously, but definitely when he came to the States with the way that he fought, that was so different than your Steven Seagal, who took himself super seriously, or John Claude Van Damme, who took their karate super seriously. He was just kind of comical with his stuff, to being a kid star. He's done it all. And he's one of my favorite actors, top 10 actors of all time. I just wanted to gush over him. What does Jackie Chan mean to you, Anita? And specifically, even looking at what's probably going to be a bad movie that we're going to go see.
That's so funny. I love Jackie Chan and how he refuses to ever play the bad guy. And so even like watching him with a gun in The Foreigner felt very foreign to me because I've never seen
Yeah.
him use a gun in any of his other films. He's very strong on that, not using guns. Love his like I don't know, even watching some of the scenes on Rush Hour and how he crafted the fights and he made decisions with the fights that made it more believable. For example, there was one scene with the Rush Hour where the gun gets kicked out of his hand and during the fight. Originally, the directors were like, "Well, you're anti-gun, and so we're gonna have you like pick up the gun and then throw it." And Jack is like, "That doesn't make any sense." It's like, "No, we need to choreograph this to where he's fighting, he picks up the gun, and it gets kicked out of his hand. That's more believable." So it's like the little stuff like that where someone takes their craft so seriously and they really help make it what it is. I have mad respect for that. I also love Jackie Chan Adventures. And a little fun fact about Jackie, he got his name, the name Jackie, from one of his coworkers when he first moved to the States, I believe, when he was a bricklayer. Another coworker
Mm.
just called him Jackie, and so that stuck. And I also think he probably did more crazy stunts in China because he talked about how their safety wasn't really up to par, like how it was in America at the time. So they didn't do like a lot of green screens. If you was running out of burning building, that you're really running out of burning building. So, um, yeah, he just seems like a great guy. Like I want to get to know him. And he can never do anything wrong in my eyes. He is like Mr. Rogers.
He's the Mr. Rogers of
That
kung
those,
fu movies. You know,
yeah,
and I love Jet Li and Donnie Yen, of course, Bruce Lee and all of them too. But there's just something special about what Jackie Chan films. Like there's been times where I've needed to watch new movies, and I feel a little bit of a malaise about it because I'm like, oh, I gotta watch something else. Gotta be critical. I'm just gonna throw on Armor of God or something. I'm gonna throw on Rush Hour, and I'll just watch it because a lot of these
yeah.
movies are really short too. They're not. I don't think he has like a 2.5 hour movie. And
You didn't
even
mention
his,
Karate,
I'm sorry.
Karate Kid.
He did
The new Karate,
yeah, that was when he was doing his kid bag, right? He did the Karate
yeah.
Kid with little I'm sorry, yeah, Jaden, you Jaden, you
Yeah.
know. Um, I even like this, like the tuxedo. There's still something charming even about the kind of bad kid movies that he makes that I think kids like and enjoy too. So even as he became more or less not able to do some of the stuff at the same clip that he did, he's still able to make you laugh in some of these kid movies with his moves and his karate and how he gets out of these situations. So I'm excited to see him in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles voicing that character. Oh, Kung Fu Panda. I don't know if I mentioned he did all the Kung Fu Panda
Yeah.
films. He's the monkey in the Kung Fu Panda films. Um, I really hope this Rush Hour 4 happens. It needs to. If it doesn't happen in the next 2 years, I don't think it will. Just because Jackie's old. I mean, I just don't know what else they're going to
Chris,
be
oh,
able to do with him. He's still very much in shape, but I don't know what they would. It would be so. It would be much more of a comedy than an action movie, and I feel like it has to be an action comedy and not a comedy action for it to be able to work the way the other films did. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I could be proven wrong on that. But yeah, just want to give a little love to Jackie Chan because I saw that trailer drop today. I knew that John Cena's been talking about this movie he made with Jackie Chan for like at least 2 years, I feel like, on while he's been doing the runs on stuff. And it's good to see that it's finally going to get released. I'm hoping it gets a theatrical release. This is an international trailer. It's not a American trailer, so I don't know if it's going to get a theatrical release in the States with John Cena being in the film. I would assume so, but we'll see. So, but yeah, that's the show. I want to see you guys back next week. We're going to continue to rotate guests in and out and have some fun here. Anita, where can people follow you? Where can people purchase your stuff? What movies are you most excited about? Whatever you want to do when you sign off, let us know.
yeah. So next week I'll be coming back from what, Spider-Man, the Boogeyman. I think there's something else that's coming out this week that I'm going to go. Either way, it's going to be a great weekend for us in movies. You can find Anita_Easterwood, and my website is the same, AnitaEasterwood.com. Everything's under my name, so I'm pretty easy to find.
I think it's just the Boogeyman and because the Flash is in 2 weeks.
Oh, maybe.
Transformers is the week. Transformers is the week after.
Okay.
They're re-releasing DC League of Super Pets for some reason. That's
I
stupid.
saw that. That's interesting. Maybe they just need another kids movie out there.
I mean, between Across the Spider-Verse and Little Mermaid, I don't think so, but we'll see. I can't wait for my daughter to get old enough to take the movies. She's going to everything. I'm like,
Watch her.
like guess what? Boogeyman 4 came out, little 7-year-old. let's hit it.
Poor Harlow.
Okay, that's it. Thank you so much for guys following me. If you haven't followed me yet, you just saw me online. It's just at Brian Knows Movies on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. My website is brianknowsmovies.com. That blog is going to be restarted here very soon. Thank you so much, and I will see you at theaters next week.